is it? I'm a critic, and welcome back. We're continuing our 2025 draft recap. We are currently in the AFC East, and now we're going to go to sunny Florida for the Miami Dolphins. They have 8 picks, and, well, could this be the last core of rookie that Tua Tagovailoa will be part of? Not because of his plays, because I am really scared for his injury. But let's see what the Dolphins do to maybe help mitigate the potential disaster of Tua's health. And let's see what they do because, well, every season the AFC gets tougher and tougher to compete. So let's check out the Miami Dolphins 2025 draft recap. And funny enough, we start with number 13 because the last time the Dolphins had number 13 that was worth a damn was Dan Marino. And they're still searching for a potential replacement ever since. But with the 13th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. I am really, no disrespect to him, I was really surprised he was picked top 15. I feel there was a lot of players, even some Michigan player that I'm surprised didn't go top 15. And I feel like because a lot of the defensive players were being plucked so quickly that I think Miami got scared. Grant is a football player. And I say it for a few reasons. One, he wears number 78. Now you have everything, like Bruce Smith. And like, not where I was going with, but if that's the reason, because I've not done my research, I'm a very immature YouTuber, then yes, that's probably the reason. But he wore number 78 in high school. He wore number 78 in college. And as far as I know, he's probably going to wear number 78 in Miami. According to this, he's not been given a jersey number, so I don't know if there's a player that already has it or he hasn't been selected officially. But I'm looking at Grant similar to the way I'm looking at Vita Vea for Tampa Bay, in that this is a guy that can take on 2 offensive linemen double team and still make the tackle. This is a guy that I feel like he's more athletic than his position dictate. I feel like this is a guy, if he was on a 4-3 defense instead of a 3-4 where he'll be the nose guard, I think he'll be more utilized in a 4-3. But that doesn't mean I think he's a lot faster than what his position dictates. And no disrespect, but I kind of feel like Grant is kind of what I thought the Dolphins wanted Sue to be when he went to Miami. Now, Sue is not a standard nose guard, so I get the different thought on that. But I feel like what Vita Vea has done for Tampa, and that basically he's willing to take all comings, all blockings, and still make plays to the point where sometimes he leads the team in sacks, either the game or the season. This to me feels more that he will take a lot of the attention, given his outer edge rushers and even his defensive ends buddies more chance to win one-on-one matchups. But I believe that this is the guy that will literally sack quarterbacks mainly because his exterior partners, his edge and defensive ends, will close the pocket, forcing Grant to get sacks. I'm going to say it right now. If Grant gets 10 sacks this year, his rookie season, do not be surprised. I am that confident how good this guy is. And to see this guy picked up top 15, whether it's based on desperation or because the Dolphins wanted from day one, I feel like Grant is going to be so disruptive. He's going to make everyone around him better on the defense. And that includes as far as the secondary. That's how good he's going to be. So to me, this is a solid pick. And I am really surprised because a lot of people, including myself, had him as going as late as the 25th pick or even early second round pick. But him to go top 15, that to me, like I said, either desperation or a massive upgrade. Then we go to the second round with the 37th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Miami Dolphins selected I had his name pronounced before I started recording. Johan Salvaniasim. I butchered that name so bad. I owe this guy a fruit basket. An apology. Offensive guard, Arizona. Offensive guard, I have always felt like out of all the, let's just be the 3 core positions of offensive linemen, center, guards, tackles, the guards always view it as the third tier of its own respected. The tackle's always viewed as number one because they protect the quarterback, and most quarterbacks are, right-handed, so the left tackle is always the most protected. And then the center, because they're the one that literally giving the ball to the quarterback, and they got to make sure that that nose guard does not break through them and sack the quarterback before he finishes his three-step drop. So, guards always viewed as a... Now, there are great guards, and some guards are so utilized they can also be center, so therefore they are Swiss Army knives. My thought for this, for the Dolphins, is always the case of we must protect Tua. The same way I feel like the Bengals do when they get offensive linemen is to protect Joe Burrow. The sad thing is that sometimes I wonder this is protect Tua from himself to the point where Tua might not need to scramble or have to run, and God forbid he gets hurt. While Joe Burrow is just, Joe Burrow is going to throw a bar to his receiver, so we must give him protection. This one feels more like we want to give Tua protection because we don't want him to run for his life and God forbid he gets hurt. Or worse, he gets sacked in the pocket and then gets hurt again. Trust me, I still have nightmares seeing what his fingers look like. That to me scares bejesus out of me more than any like ACL tear or even the leg snapping or what happened to Joe Theismann. Okay? That to me terrifies me. Seeing a young man like that, because my fear is always what happens after football. And I don't want him to be a kind of guy that basically turns into, a shell of himself because his mind is damaged beyond repair. So this to me feels more of an insurance policy to protect Tua and to probably make the rushing attack be more effective, so therefore Tua doesn't have to save the day every play. Yes, you have Tyreek Hill. Yes, you have Waddle and Waddle away. But this feels more of we want to utilize the rushing attack more and also make sure Tua does not get killed in the pocket, so anything's help. So to me, this is to protect him. And according to ESPN.com, they have him projected to be right guard behind James Daniels. So we'll see what happens when the training camp starts. Then nothing happened. Then we go all the way to the 5th round. And with the 143rd pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, Maryland. Okay, so now we're doubling up. By the way, there was a lot of Maryland players that got drafted in this draft. To surprise me, when I do this, I make charts. I put the position with the pick, the position, and then I give a grade of yes, no, how I feel about them. And there's a lot of time I'm like Maryland. There's a lot of Maryland players being drafted. No disrespect to Maryland in the university and the player, but it's just like, why wasn't Maryland good? A lot of these players are getting drafted, so I mean they must have graded well to be drafted. But I just was surprised that, man, why was the Maryland program kind of meh compared to everyone else in the ACC? ACC? No, Big Ten. Big Ten. Yeah, it's Big Ten? I think it's Big Ten. Yeah, it's Big Ten. Anyway, Maryland. So seeing another Maryland player get picked up, because like I said, when we watch all these videos, if you want to watch all these videos, thank you very much for that. There's going to be a lot of players like University of Maryland, Terrapins, Maryland. And the only thing I knew of Maryland for was basically their basketball team. Men's, especially. So anyway, Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, coming in here. Now, because they're 1-3-4 defense, they have him potentially as a backup rotation to Grant, which I wonder if they might move him to defensive end and let Grant be the main focus, or they're going to do scheme with to double up the defensive tackles interior-wise, for it depends on certain schemes. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I just feel like maybe they're going to move Jordan into defensive end. Let me look. I'm looking at his standard. Okay, so like I was saying, Jordan Phillips, the defensive tackle from Maryland, the 5th rounder, he's 6'3", 320. So it makes sense to see him potentially interior-wise as a defensive tackle. But then I have this Jordan Phillips here, and I can't find the other Jordan Phillips anywhere else. So, yeah, I'm just going to move on and say rotational defensive tackle. He's 300 pounds, 6'3". Definitely screams it. Rotational player. Let's move on. Let's move on. That was just confusing of all hell. Still in the 5th round with the 150th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Jason Marshall Jr., corner out of Florida. So I feel like the Jalen Ramsey situation is getting a little bit. Is he worth the headaches now? I don't know. I don't know. Am I saying that Marshall Jr. is here to replace Ramsey? Not even close. No, no. But I feel like he's there to either compete, rotation, be a rotational player, what? But to replace Ramsey straight up, no. Unless Ramsey gets traded, he's still viewed at. And Marshall Jr. is viewed as a left corner behind, Duck and Cam Smith. So we'll see what he does. See how much he's utilized in the schemes. But to me, this definitely feels like we need to get enough corners because Ramsey is so valuable individually that if he does leave, whenever that happens, we probably need, a corner by committee to kind of make up for what Ramsey was able to do by himself. Will the Dolphins officially trade him? I don't know. I think only Ramsey will be traded if God forbid, like one of the starting teams in preseason has like one of their starting corners tear their ACL. That might be the only reason, because then the Dolphins will have all the leverage to make the deal trade. To me, I always find it a little bit. Let's just wait and see. Ramsey, sadly, I'm not saying he's a dirty player. I just feel like his attitude. I mean, the way he was drafted by the Jaguars, like what, 8th overall or something like that. And then he won it out, and he kind of made a big show of it. And then he went to the Rams, won a ring, and then he won it out. And it just feels like a guy with his talent. You just feel a little bit like he's very talented, but sometimes, man, the headaches ain't worth it. Headaches ain't worth it for that. So Jason Marshall Jr. coming in here, pardon me, to Miami. I definitely feel like it's because the Dolphins expect to trade Ramsey and they need enough corners to kind of fill the void because of Ramsey's impact player as an individual. So, 5 picks down the line we go to, still in the 5th round with the 155th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Miami Dolphins selected Dante Trader Jr., safety, Maryland. I am telling you, I am going to find a list of all universities. I'm going to tell you that Maryland probably has like nearly 15 players drafted. I may be exaggerative, but I've seen Maryland University on players a lot this draft cycle. Good for the university, but just surprising nonetheless. Dante Trader Jr. safety. Going with secondary help. Another thing that I kind of feel like gets they got very exposed because a lot of time their pass rush was either injured or wasn't getting to the quarterback. That's why Chop Robinson was drafted, and he quietly had a very good rookie year. But I felt like a lot of it was Chop Robinson, and it was kind of like dead. What they did with the 2 defensive tackles is to take up offensive line blocking to give the pass rushers a chance to sack quarterbacks. And then taking the Ramsey thing out, they want to make the secondary better, even if it means the player they have on roster may not be doing it. And they want to give young players to develop, so therefore their raw potential can be harnessed into something that can be worthy of a starting position. Do I see some of these secondary players in Marshall and Trader? By the way, they're both called juniors. The 2 juniors, literally junior, could potentially be started. I would not be surprised by, week 12 if you see like both these guys potentially starting or getting more rotational snaps in a professional game, especially if the season gets to the point where it's like they're 7-7. They need to win these games to make a playoff spot, yada, 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 yada. That's what I'm thinking at. So for me, this one feels more of, we view you as a potential rotational starter by week 10. We just got to get you there developing. So we'll see. And that's where I feel like the 2 juniors will definitely showcase that. Then we go to the 6th round, and I feel like this is a very unique pick. With the 170th ninth pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Ollie Gordon II, running back, Oklahoma State. This is another player that I am surprised he kind of dropped as low as he did. Maybe it's the stigma of running backs still being viewed as, running back, we don't really need you. But then people look at what Barkley and Derrick Henry did, and then some even look at what Bucky Irving did, and they're thinking, okay, maybe you're worth it. Look what the Lions did with a 2-headed monster of young rookie and veteran, player in Montgomery. So maybe running backs are making a comeback. I think some people are like, I'm not paying you $60 million. No. But it's like, yeah, but you still got to pay me at least 40. Deal. So we'll see what he does. Gordon, I've always viewed as Oklahoma State or basically anyone in the Big 12 as a spread offense, air raid type offense where the running back is more of just to keep the defense honest. At least that's the stereotype I have. Also, I would always view the Big 12 as it's the offensive conference. If you want a good offensive player, go to the Big 12. Some of the great players in NFL right now are from the Big 12. Funny enough. And a lot of the receivers are from the Big 12. But defense, not so much. I can't think of the last good defensive player from the Big 12. And before you say, what about Myles Garrett? Myles Garrett, Texas A&M, they went to the SEC, that doesn't count. So that's how I view it. So seeing Gordon, I feel like he'd be utilized more as a receiving back that can run in between the tackles more than just a running back that just gets behind the line and just, finds gaps in between the tackles and guards. I don't seem like that. And I feel like that's the reason why he was picked up, to basically act as potentially a safety valve and rotation for the running backs they have for Tua. So if Tua's going to scramble, like, no, give it to the running back. Give it to me. I'm right here. Check it down to me and let me do my thing. Okay? This guy, I feel like, I'm getting Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard from the Panthers vibe from him. And I think Chuba also went to Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken. I think he did. So maybe that's the reason why I'm getting that kind of vibe with him. So, and I feel like that's what he do. I feel like Gordon could potentially be that workhorse that just does quietly good stats that no one pays attention to because, he's a 6th-round pick. But keep an eye on him for that. Well, now we go to the 7th round, our last 2 picks. With the 231st pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Quinn Ewers, quarterback, Texas. Okay, I love quarterbacks. I played quarterback this much. And no, it wasn't recreational. I wasn't starting quarterback recreational. I actually was a quarterback in high school. Like I said, that much. And trust me when I say, a lot of times quarterbacks are just there. They're there. Quinn Ewers was a quarterback that I think a lot of people were projecting when the season started to be up there with, let's be real, the Shedeur Sanders, that he was in the talks of, he was one of the top 5 quarterbacks going into the college football season. But I feel like what the playoffs really kind of like magnify what it was, and a lot of Texas fans and a lot of Texas alumni, maybe even Matthew McConaughey, I don't know, he hasn't returned my phone calls. I don't even have his number. Say is that Quinn Ewers doesn't have the it factor. Like he doesn't have the clutch. He doesn't he's a quality quarterback, but doesn't have any splash plays. He doesn't have anything, yay. I think his biggest claim to fame is the Dr. Pepper commercial where basically he flat out just criticized Archie Manning. Yeah. Quinn Ewers, if Quinn Ewers would have won the national championship this year, I think it wouldn't help. I think his legacy probably would have been the same. But I would say that Quinn Ewers probably helped Matthew Golden's draft stock more than he did. More than the other way around, honestly. But because of Tua's health, I think the Dolphins are looking at potentially... Zach Wilson is viewed as the number 2 quarterback. So you tell me how they feel comfortable. If Quinn Ewers can prove to be a better Josh Rosen and be a quality back, especially if God forbid Tua gets hurt again, and Zach Wilson, that Quinn Ewers could probably, pull a Gardner Minshew type career, where he's quality, and then we'll see what happens. The NFL is not for long, but I feel like that not for long is like not for long for this one team. But maybe Quinn Ewers can develop and go somewhere else and become things. You never know. But to me, this feels more of, we want to make sure that if Tua gets hurt, God forbid, and Zach Wilson is Zach Wilson, Quinn Ewers can develop and maybe keep the season alive. That's what I will say. And actually, out of all the quarterbacks, I feel like he's the one that I feel like he might be thrust in to start. Spencer Rattler was thrust in to start for the Saints, probably faster than most people expected. So, and then with the last pick, with the 253rd pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Zeke Biggers, defensive tackle, Georgia Tech. This one is another, I feel like, because the team around him wasn't good, he didn't get the attention he deserves. And Zeke Biggers, which is a great name. Honestly, it sounds literally like a rapper's name. My name is Zeke Biggers. I'm bigger than God. King Kong, whatever you ball. I can't rap. Leave me alone. Zeke Biggers, defensive tackle. I mean, the Dolphins got 3 defensive tackles in this draft, and basically all roughly within like a pick or two apart from each other. So I always thought it was the pass rushing department, but maybe it's because the pass rush kept getting double teamed because the interior defensive tackle couldn't take the pressure off those pass rushers from getting to the quarterback and doing those one-on-one matches they love so much. Now, seeing Zeke Biggers, yeah, I have no idea where to see him, and maybe he being viewed as a potential defensive end sign because I run a 3-4 defense, and let's be real, when you run a 3-4 defense, your defensive end are not the Julius Peppers and Khalil Mack defensive end. We're talking about basically a more athletic defensive tackle, than actual defensive end. So let's be real, that's what they are. The bigger aggressive guy will be Grant in the middle, and then the 2 defensive end, or basically just a more athletic, a much more quicker run stopper defensive end tackles. That's what they're going to be. So we'll see what they do. For all we know, these 3 men that got drafted in this draft could potentially be the starting 3 defensive linemen moving over. I doubt it. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself, but I feel like that could be potential, or worst case, rotational players that develop over time. We'll see. But getting 3 defensive tackles roughly from like the first, mid to end tier, I just feel like you want depth, you want rotation, you want to make sure that things are going well defensively. You don't want a stop because a player is either underdeveloped or not involved into the scheme as what you wanted to when the season gets rough. So to me, this feels more of literally an insurance protection for him. And like I said, if you get picked last and you're not a defensive back, I always feel like they want to see you be utilized quickly into the scheme of the system more than just be a special teams contributor. So to me, that's what I feel like Biggers is picked for. And that is the Miami Dolphins. The grade I give the Dolphins, a lot of it is based on, honestly, I am very happy with the defensive player they have picked up, and I think Gordon II is going to be a star in the making. I think they're going to be better. Remember, the Dolphins is a team that always was like 9-8, 8-9. They're not a 10 loss plus team. They just happen never to get there at the very end. And sometimes they go against the Colts or against much superior team and they don't play well. So to me, I'm going to say the Dolphins are better with this draft because I believe the defense is going to step up. I believe Grant is going to be disruptive. It's going to make everyone else better. And then the rotation is just going to contribute. Like I said, Tua's health is the biggest reason I feel like they'll derail any team, but definitely the Dolphins in his life too. But to me, I think the Dolphins are better because I believe the defense is going to make more stops, probably even force more turnovers with the players they have from this roster. What happened with Jalen Ramsey, I don't know. But for me, I am focusing more on overall the players here are going to make the defensive players already on the team, including Chop Robinson's second year, better. And the gold star, my favorite player, I'm looking at this draft class. I'm looking forward to Grant. I know he's the 13th overall pick, so it's kind of like, oh, duh. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how exciting to see this guy. A player that basically comes in, and like I said, number 78, yes, has a Hall of Fame stigma behind Bruce Smith. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I'm just going to say, sure. But a lot of defensive players like to get like the 99, 97, the 50, like they want to get a flashy number, a number that just showcase their accolades as look how cool because my number is. 70, and let's be real, that's always viewed as an offensive tackle number, or sometimes like the 5th string offensive tackle on a Pee Wee football team level. Trauma. But I believe this guy is going to be a disruptor. This guy is going to make number 78 cool again. That's what he's going to do. He's going to make defensive tackles be proud to wear number 7 instead of trying to go for the flashy numbers or like the more, impressive numbers for his jersey. So to me, I am looking forward to him being literally, honestly, he is my view as potentially being the defensive MVP for the Dolphins next year. And maybe a defensive player rookie of the year candidate. That's how confident I feel that he can become like that. Like I said, he gets 10 sacks. Don't be surprised. And that's the Miami Dolphins. We're done. Now we're going to talk to the team that wins the East every year but never gets beyond that. The Buffalo Bills are next on the clock, and we talk about what they have done to perfect themselves to get beyond losing the divisional round. Maybe they'll lose to the conference championship again, because if they get beyond that, that means they're in the Super Bowl, and then we can finally talk about something new. But until then, let's see the new player they bring in to go with NFL MVP winner Josh Allen and company. So until then, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.